nobody talks about like, like how traumatic like
childbirth is?
Yeah, childbirth is. Like I had no idea what to expect, and I fractured my tailbone.
Hi everyone, welcome back to season 4, Art of Beauty, and this is episode 10. I can't believe it's episode 10, but I have a very, very special guest today. We have the beautiful Sophia with me.
Hi.
How are you doing? You look wonderful, by the way.
Oh, thank you. So do you.
Thank
I'm good.
you.
Very good. Excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here. So today's topic is all about motherhood and redefining self-image. So like you mentioned earlier, we've been like kind of Facebook friends for a while, but
I know.
This is actually the first time we're meeting each other.
Yeah, I can't believe it's taken so long for us to actually sit down and have a chat.
Right.
Yeah.
And I remember like way back when we were a lot younger, I would see so many of your cool pictures, but now you are a mom.
Yeah. A lot has changed.
A lot has changed. You also have your own brand.
Yes, I
So you're
do.
juggling so many different things. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit of like what you do.
It's a lot of juggling, I think. So it's kind of a balancing act. Like I think for the most part, like I'm a mom first.
Yeah.
So I have 2 kids. I have a 10-month-old and a 4-year-old. So day to day is kind of just like I try to balance, like maybe I get 2 hours of work in per day, depending on the day. Some days are more demanding than other days.
Right.
In terms of my kids, but yeah, it's a juggling act for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that's what it is like being a mom, right? But you did mention you also work from home. So how is that working? Like, I'm sure it's difficult already having kids, but then having to work from home and having your kids kind of around.
It's really, it's tough. Like, I love it. Like, I would not change it.
Yeah.
I certainly wouldn't want to go into an office every day. I mean, like, it's for some people, but it's not for me. It is really hard, but it's super rewarding.
Right.
Yeah. And like I keep going back to like the juggling aspect of it. It's really hard to like find that balance. Sometimes I feel like that balance doesn't even really exist. It's like some days you give like 100% to like your work and, maybe like you sacrifice a little bit on the parenting aspect of things. But I still wouldn't change it for the world because I get to be around my kids and I get to see them. And it's hard. Like it's definitely hard, but it's amazing.
Yeah. But I mean, I feel like ever since I saw your pictures before I met you, you kind of look the same, honestly.
Really?
Really?
Okay, that is such a compliment.
Because you look, like how I remember you looking like years ago when I, saw you on social
nice
media.
of you to say. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, what did you have like a self-image like change, like pre-mom, post-mom? Did you ever see yourself differently after you had kids?
Yes. I think motherhood, like, absolutely, like, tears you apart, breaks you down, and, like, in many ways, like, rebuilds you. I think I actually begun to understood myself a lot better after I had my first kid. Yeah.
Okay. Was that, like, more of, like, your life choices, your lifestyle, or just, like, your outlook in life in general?
Both. Yeah, my lifestyle 100% changed. I think that's inevitable. Like, it happens when you become a mom. Like, your priorities change.
Yeah.
You develop a lot more clarity. I think my goals were also, like, more defined because I felt, like, when I had my first son, like, my first child, okay, I love this kid more than anything, and I want to make this world, like, a great place for him. I don't want his life to be hard. So, it's just like it's a natural thing that happens. Like you want to give them the best. So therefore, like your goals start to become more defined for the sake of your child and your family. And yeah.
Did you always, plan to have kids like early on in your life or?
I always wanted kids. I think I always knew I wanted kids. We certainly didn't plan for it to happen as early as it did. I got married at 28 or 27. God, I can't remember. Okay. We got married and a few months later we were pregnant.
Yeah.
But
I feel like it was a good time, right? To kind of.
Actually, it was kind of crazy how it happened because it was COVID.
Oh.
So like Dan, my husband, we'd planned like a whole honeymoon thing. Obviously everyone wants to do like the honeymoon, it's fun. And of course we wanted to enjoy like time just us as a married couple. But as it turns out, like COVID hit. Yeah. So we wouldn't have like been able to go on that honeymoon anyway. So I literally got pregnant and then COVID happened and then I gave birth during COVID. So it kind of worked out.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Look at you now. And how was that for you? What was like your, I have a few friends that are now also moms and I'm always so interested to see like their whole like pregnancy journey and their motherhood process, because it's different for everyone. How
it
was
is.
it like for you?
Okay, I found pregnancy like super difficult. I'll be completely honest. Like pregnancy was really hard for me. Although with that being said, like my two pregnancies, like my first and my second, were extremely different.
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
So I don't know what dictates that, but with Cameron, my firstborn, I had HG, which is like it's basically morning sickness, but like around the clock. So you can't keep food down. It's really gross, but it's also really, really like I couldn't even have like water and keep it down. So it was so bad that I had to be hospitalized and get like on a drip and stuff because I was like severely dehydrated. So I was like losing weight into my second trimester when you're actually supposed to be gaining weight. And it was all down to like this condition called HG. But that subsided towards the end of my second trimester. So it got better, but it was still really hard. And then nobody talks about like, you know, like how traumatic like
childbirth is?
Yeah, childbirth is. Like I had no idea what to expect. And I fractured my tailbone.
Oh my God.
I know. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Oh.
Yeah. So
I've never heard of that, actually.
I know. So,
is that quite common?
I don't think it's necessarily like common. It can happen. According to my doctor, it can happen, but it's not common. But it's an extremely painful injury, and there's nothing you can do really for recovery aside from rest, which is an impossibility when you've just had a baby and like you're breastfeeding. So my doctor's advice is like, don't walk up any stairs, don't walk, don't run, sleep on your, was it back? Like basically his advice was all the things you kind of couldn't do if you're planning to be like a really hands-on like mom and like carry your kid. And yeah, so it was tough. My first pregnancy and delivery was tough. Second pregnancy was easier. Yeah, it's still hard. I know, like, you know, some women love it. Like I have some friends who are like, oh, you know, being pregnant is amazing. I wish I could just, you know, keep having babies and be pregnant forever. And I'm like, oh my God, I want to be you. I wish I could say that for myself. Yeah, I guess, it's like you said.
Yeah, everybody's different. And I've also had some friends who are like, it was a breeze, like, you know, walk in the park. And I was like,
oh my God. What? And like, you know, pregnancy glow, right? I totally did not have that. Like I got acne. Like I was, my hormones were clearly haywire. So I got like breakouts and like, you know, I was uncomfortable all the time and in pain. And pregnancy was not fun. For me.
But during that time, were there any like beauty practices you did or any sort of like, you know, mantras that you told yourself to kind of get yourself through that?
Beauty practices? I mean, like I would call it like a self-care practice because I feel like when you're pregnant, you absolutely need to do like self-care for yourself because especially for your first pregnancy, because your body changes so rapidly and no one kind of warns you for it. Like you don't really know what's coming until it happens. Right. This is my experience. Like I need to clarify that's my experience. But like, you know, like for me, like everything changes. It's like your skin changes, like your chest, like your boobs, your breasts change, like everything changes. So I found like when I was pregnant, like my belly was massive. Like it grew pretty big pretty quickly. And so you get itchy because like your skin is stretching. Dry, and it gets drier. So I tried all sorts of products, like, you know, the usual stuff, like what they recommend for like pregnancy. So like the bio oils of the world. I tried loads of things and nothing really like eased it for me until like one of my friends actually gifted me like just pure shea butter, like African shea butter, like I can't even remember the brand, but I tried it and I was like, oh my God, it's actually working. So I just started doing that kind of religiously. And that's actually kind of how Ulu Soleil came about. It was like, I fell in love with the magic of shea butter. And that's how our body bombs came about.
Okay, wow. Just a little off topic. Let's talk a bit about your brand. So you mentioned that was one of the things that inspired you to start Ulu Soleil. So I recently met Sophia at a Harvest Bazaar Beauty Awards, and that product won an award. So I'm so excited to try it. But can you tell us a little bit more about like how you started it, how it came about, why you started it, and you know what the products are really
sure. So you've kind of gotten the gist of it in a sense that like I started it when I was pregnant and shea butter was what worked for me, like pure shea butter, by the way. So it can't be like, so loads of products on the market have shea butter in them, but they're just like tiny amounts, like trace amounts of shea butter. So the key for me, like what actually really worked for me during pregnancy was the fact that it was pure. So the body balms that we made are infused with, we have 2 body balms. The one that you're talking about, that one, the best body balm category at Harper's Bazaar, that's our retinol body balm.
Okay.
So that's basically like over 90% shea butter, and it's infused with retinol.
Got it.
But obviously retinol is not recommended for pregnancy.
Yeah.
So if you're like breastfeeding or pregnant, like you shouldn't use it, or you're advised not to, basically. So we have like another version called the shea butter and hyaluronic plus vitamin E version, which is fantastic for pregnancy, fantastic for breastfeeding, completely safe, and it like really works. So we've kind of revolutionized the application of shea butter in that it's, instead of like putting it in a jar, we're like, because that was one thing that really bothered me when I was pregnant. Like, okay, shea butter is so great, like my skin feels so good, but oh my God, it's messy. Like it's really, it can be greasy and messy, and it kind of gets on everything. So I was like, why can't we like put it in a tube and then just like, you know, like,
like a deodorant.
Yes, exactly. And then, you know, like we did a lot of research, and a lot of the people, like the R&D people we spoke to were like, no, it can't be done. Eventually, like we cracked it and we found a formulation that worked, and like we managed to get the shea butter solidified with the active ingredients. And we arrived at the body balms in those little cardboard tubes.
Like, okay, so let's just talk about like some of the, I guess, like, you know, motherhood stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of moms always talk about like stretch marks, dry skin, all that.
Yeah.
Did you go through that? Do you? Because you know,
God.
guys, come on, she doesn't look like she gave birth 10 months ago.
That's
like honestly,
so sweet.
That's crazy to me.
That's like, okay, so this is the thing, like first pregnancy versus second pregnancy, I think my mindset was very different.
Of course.
Because like I said, nobody warns you for what's about to happen to your body. So I feel like if there's more awareness, more understanding, more appreciation, moms wouldn't have such a hard time like dealing with like their body changes during the first pregnancy. But I feel like it's not normalized enough. So during my first pregnancy, I think, like full disclosure, I definitely like dealt with some like body issues. Because I'm like, oh my God, what's happening to my body? Like, oh my God, my stomach. Oh my God, my thighs, my hips, you know? But like in my second pregnancy, I'm like, oh yeah, you know, like bring it. Like I'm excited, you know? Because like I'm going to embrace, I'm going to embrace this. And also like, I mean, it's pretty powerful, like what your body's doing. Like you're not just creating life, but you're carrying it and you're nurturing it. And like your body's going through so much. And like, it's also going to go back, you know, maybe not to like the state that it was like pre-baby, but like, that's okay. Yeah. So like I suppose like my relationship with like stretch marks and all those things, during my first pregnancy wasn't so positive. It wasn't healthy, I would say. So it took time. Like it took time for me to understand and kind of like do work on myself and accept these things, accept them as like, you know, things are actually pretty empowering. Like I'm pretty lucky to be able to experience all this, you know, and be healthy whilst doing it. So during the second pregnancy, I think I breezed through it a little bit more, like breezed. You know? Yes, exactly. Relatively speaking, like comparatively. So like my stance towards stretch marks and, you know, even like my freckles, you know, I've got freckles. That took me time to accept, but now like I love them. Like I love I do have stretch marks, but not on my belly. So I had stretch marks like pre-pregnancy.
Okay.
Yeah. So I did use like shea butter on my belly whilst I was pregnant. So
you're so lucky to not have stretch marks.
But I have stretch marks like in other places, you know, like you stretch, you know, like you grow. Any rapid growth.
And then like, you know, weight loss, like any sort of change. And I think a lot of people also don't like normalize that. People always assume that you only get stretch marks or, you know, like all
stretch
these things.
Stretch marks are so normal.
Yeah, it's so normal. You don't have to even, you know, be going through pregnancy to get stretch
Absolutely
marks.
not. You can like guys have stretch marks. Like it's normal. Like you know?
Things like cellulite, all those kind of things. Like people like make a big deal out of it when it's really just, you know,
it's just skin.
It's just skin.
It's not literally. Like it's not like an evil medical condition or like something that's bad for you. It's just skin.
Yeah, totally. And you know, you did mention to me also like you were not so huge on like the whole like confinement aspect of pregnancy.
Okay, so to clarify, during my first pregnancy, it was COVID. So I think I was a little bit like, I think most people during COVID, you know, there was a massive anxiety surrounding like illness. And so I'm like, oh my God, I can't let like a random person into my home. It's I was very protective of my baby. I think it was just normal when you first give birth because it's all just like such a new thing and all these emotions and hormones like kind of just hits you out of nowhere. And so that was kind of why I think with my first pregnancy, I didn't do the whole confinement thing. So with my second pregnancy, I did try. It didn't work out. Like it wasn't for me. Like I think too many rules. I like my independence. Like, I have a lot of friends who swear by it, and like, to each their own. Like, I'm sure it's great for some moms and like they love it. I will say, like, the massage aspect of confinement is fantastic though. Like, I loved getting massages, but it's like, can't makan this, or like, I'm just like, well, okay, I really need this. I really need to eat this right now. I'm hungry. Things like that. And then also, like, I just found it very restrictive. It depends on the type of person you are.
Yeah,
and I also, like, I couldn't stay at home. Like, I wanted to go out for walks. And like, I also had like a 3-year-old at the time who I've got like a routine with. So I didn't feel like just because I've given birth, I need to, I couldn't neglect him. I felt bad.
Yeah. I understand that.
Yeah. Like, going out and getting fresh air is so important when you just give birth.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But, like, throughout your pregnancy, like, were you a very, like, cautious eater, or like, were there things that you were very strict about?
First pregnancy, yes.
Yeah.
Second pregnancy, probably
you were just
not.
like, I know.
I'm gonna wing it.
Okay,
yeah.
that is
No, I mean, like, the things, obviously, like raw meat. I didn't have raw meat. I think in my second pregnancy I did have sashimi, but I think there are like, I think it's actually like okay. I'm not sure. Don't quote me. I'm not like a medical professional, but I was definitely more lax in my second pregnancy.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I generally try to like maintain like an overall healthy diet.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Have you always been like a healthy person?
No.
In general? In your
no, definitely not. No.
Okay.
No, absolutely not. No, I mean, like, I used to love junk food. Like, it's so bad, but I did. I mean, it's so bad, but it's so good.
Yeah.
But now I'm like more conscious of that stuff. I feel like the more like research, I suppose, you do as you get older, the more you understand, like, okay, the stuff is so yummy, but it's so detrimental to my health. And also, like, my partner has played like a massive role in kind of rewiring me and my relationship towards food. So he's really like he's very disciplined. Like, to him, it just comes naturally. Like, it's really easy. So he's sugar-free completely, like alcohol-free completely. He's very disciplined,
Wow.
So
sugar-free is difficult.
So that's what I would say as well. But like, if you speak to him, like, it's actually so frustrating sometimes because he's like, no, it's not. It's easy. And I'm like,
in Malaysia, I feel like it's a bit of a challenge.
So we cook a lot. Like, we cook at home a lot. But even when we don't, like, if we were to go out and stuff, we just kind of like, he tends to order like whole foods. So for example, like, if I were to go out to, like, I don't know, like a brunch place, for example, I order like scrambled eggs, avocado, like toast. But whole foods generally obviously have less processed sugar or like no processed sugar. So he will eat fruit sometimes. So we'll have like natural sugars, like, from dates or whatever, but not like
sugar,
exactly. So he would never have a slice of cake or chocolate.
Oh my God.
I know.
Wow.
No, I know. Good for him. It's amazing. Like, I aspire to be that way, but I'm not.
But he doesn't have like those, like, craving.
No. So according to him, like, they're really easy to kick. Like, when you hit the 2-week period, you kind of just don't crave sugar anymore.
Your body just doesn't like want it, I guess.
According to him. Yeah. Okay, like, again, according to him. Like, maybe it's an individual thing. Like, I haven't gotten to that level. But like, also, his personality and mine are very different. Like, he's got a very like extreme personality. He's like 100 or nothing. Like, if we have a bar of chocolate at home, like, he will smash that entire chocolate bar, whereas I can have like a square and I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah, but that's so interesting, like, how you guys are so different, but at the same time, like, you mentioned also your parenting styles are different.
Yeah, we did. So that's the thing. It's like interesting. I feel like very like similar core values, but very different upbringings. Like, he was brought up in the UK. I was brought up in Malaysia, and like, my mom's like, I'm from a mixed family, but still, like, I have a lot of like, I suppose, like, Asian values. Yeah, so it's definitely been, we've worked to kind of come to where we are now. Yeah, so it's a lot of compromise, a lot of understanding, a lot of work, a lot of healing even.
Yeah, definitely. But like, nowadays, now that you have 2 kids, how do you prioritize your self-care, like having, juggling 2 kids and a beauty brand?
So self-care, to me, like, that's actually quite simple. So I am one of those people, like, I do need my downtime. Yeah. So I spend all day with my kids, also working. So, like, again, juggling act. But at 7 o'clock, the babies are asleep. So we have like 7 o'clock to like 7 o'clock the next day to kind of just like have dinner together, like, just, connect. Also do a little bit of work at night even, but also just if I want to do self-care, I'll just be like, okay, this evening I'm gonna do my own thing. Like, you do your own thing.
Yeah.
And
I mean, I guess that's like a healthy balance as well, you know, for yourself to also just kind of, I guess, unwind and and just kind of kick back and do something for yourself? Because I know as
totally.
moms, you're always doing things for your kids.
Yeah.
So what's like, you know, some of the things you do for yourself? Is it like maybe like you do, I don't know, do you mask at home, or do you enjoy cooking for yourself, or?
I cook like 2 times a day at least. So I definitely I don't enjoy cooking for myself.
Okay, got it.
No, I mean like, okay, maybe once in a while, like if actually Dan cooks for me. My husband cooks and he's a fantastic cook. So that like to me, I mean, can you call that self-care? I think yes. Yeah. Like if my husband cooks me dinner, that's pretty nice. And he does it quite often.
Okay.
But my idea of like self-care is probably like time alone. Mm-hmm. Yeah, where it's like, you know, I'll run a bath, like a really, really hot bath. Yeah. And, you know, put a mask on, you know, have a scrub and light a candle and just kind of read a book and like, just escape. Like you don't need to be out doing it. Like for me, like a hot bath is great.
Yeah. I mean, do you have any tips for maybe like moms or moms to be like watching this, you know, kind of, then how do you balance it? Because like you said, like it's quite difficult. I mean, every day is kind of different, you know. Like, how do you find that balance?
Yeah, so like my advice to like new moms, I can only speak on my experience. So like I'm probably projecting like my experience here, but I feel like I wasn't prepared enough for motherhood. So I didn't understand, like, you know, people like post perfect pictures on social media looking like, you know, like your hair is done, your makeup's done, like your body's perfect, like, you know, and like, you know, everything looks picture perfect. Yeah. So that was like what my expectation of motherhood was going to be like. So it literally hit me like, you know, like a bus, like when it happened for real. Cause I'm like, whoa, like sleep deprived. No one tells you. Like, so I decided to like, again, fully your choice, but like I decided to fully breastfeed. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, like breastfeeding is hard work. I'm still breastfeeding. So I'm like going on 4 years. Mm-hmm. No, I've surpassed 4 years of breastfeeding, but it's hard work. Like, you know, a baby's tummy is like tiny. So, you know, you don't feed them every like 4 or 5 hours. You feed your baby every 2 hours. So that means like, you know, on average, like in a 24-hour period, like you are waking up every 2 hours to feed your baby. Right. And no one can really help you with that. Right. If you're fully breastfeeding. It's different if like you're expressing, which is also hard work in itself. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, mothers who choose to pump. But I think my advice would be like, do your research, really figure out like what you want, like have a plan, talk to your partner about the understanding and the arrangement. Like, you know, this is going to be your role. This will be my role, because I think teamwork like really does make the dream work. Like motherhood is such a beautiful experience. But it's really important to have support. Like whatever your support is, like just you got to make it work, and you got to communicate that to your partner, if it's your mom helping, just whoever it is. Yeah. So do your research and like plan.
Yeah, and see like what works for you, I guess.
Exactly.
Important thing, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But like for you, was there ever a moment where you felt like you need to like reinvent or rediscover yourself after you've had children? Kind of like finding yourself, or...
Oh, that's a tough one. Okay, I feel like I definitely lost my identity a little bit in motherhood. Mm-hmm. I think that might be a fairly normal thing, because I've discussed this with some friends, and I think it takes time. Like for me, it took a really long time, because I was really in the throes of motherhood. Like it kind of became my whole personality. Mm-hmm. I kind of still feel like it is. Like motherhood is me. You know, like I love it. But so I suppose yes, like I definitely felt like I had an identity crisis, like, oh my God, like who am I? Like, am I still that person? But you know, like it changes, like you kind of rediscover yourself, or you find out like what your true calling really is, for me anyway. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that is pretty interesting, because like I said, I also have some friends, and now that I meet them, their whole life is literally their kids, and I can totally understand that. But when I see them now versus like how I met them before they had children, they're like two separate different people, which I think, I mean, that's the whole like progression. I wouldn't call it like necessarily like an identity change or crisis.
It's not, so like when I say like I feel like I lost my identity, what I mean by that is more like in becoming a mother, I think when you're parenting someone else, like that brings up like a lot of feelings, I think, or like memories or experiences from when you were little. And I think you've kind of got to start reparenting yourself. Like it's almost like I got to know myself a lot better after having kids. Like I understood myself a lot more. Like I learned to say no to people, you know, which is something I kind of think in the past I may have struggled with. You know, I'd be like, yeah, sure, okay, let's do this, let's do that. Whereas now I'm like, no, I value my time. Like I'm not going to go out and do this. Like it's not personal. I need to be at home right now for myself.
Like setting boundaries.
Boundary setting, but like all sorts of things. So I feel like motherhood for me was very, very healing. I didn't realize I had so much healing to do, but I did. Yeah. You know, and I'm like, okay, wow.
I think that's also one of the beautiful things about, you know, becoming a mom.
Yeah.
Like you learn so much just from that experience.
Like I've been very lucky though, because of course, it can go both ways. So to be conscious of that, and be gentle and patient with yourself is really important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like, what would you say to moms who are maybe struggling with like, their self-image, like how they look, how they feel? And you mentioned you also were a little kind of like not wanting to go out.
Yeah.
There was a point where you just kind of like retreating.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like I think if I could speak to myself like 4 years ago, I would probably tell myself like, give yourself grace, like, acknowledge what your body is doing, like be patient and be kind. Like this is going to sound so hippie, but like your body hears you, like all the thoughts that you're having, like, make your mind like a pretty place, like a beautiful place to be. So, be kind, have kind thoughts, like especially about yourself. Yeah. And understand that it's a process.
Yeah. And also I think, a lot of people don't realize like, bringing up kids and having a kid, even like your support system, right? Your community around you, your friends and your family play a huge role. How is that like for you? I mean, you mentioned that, your husband is really hands-on. Which
I'm like very, very lucky. I'm grateful like every day for the husband that I have, because he's such a great dad.
Yeah.
Like he's so good to our kids. Like he's super hands-on, which is invaluable.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in terms of like a village, I feel like it's controversial for me to say this, but like I don't think I had like that village that I dreamed of. That I see a lot of people around me who are like, like they got their parents around and they got like loads of siblings helping out and stuff. And like I fully get it. It's not my mom's responsibility. It's not my sister's. It's like they're so good with my kids. Like they love them to death. But everyone's got their own life. And I think that's just the nature of society in this day and age. Like everyone works, everyone's got a social life, everyone's got their own goals. So you can't really expect to have that village anymore. But you do need to like figure a plan out. Like because you kind of have, you've got to have help. Yes. Like whether it comes from like, literally like paid help or like your husband or like, whatever it is, like you do need like a village of support. So I think personally, I struggled with my expectation not meeting reality, which made it much harder for me.
Got it. Yeah, because I think we sometimes like we assume like this is how it's going to play out.
Exactly. So it's the assumption, and I think it's like, oh no, like it's not happening the way it happened in my head. So
right.
Yeah,
and I think it's also the same thing like you mentioned with pregnancy itself. Like a lot of because you never really know until you're actually going through it, right?
Absolutely.
Like you don't know what to expect. Like you read things on like articles,
but that's the thing. I don't think I even read enough.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I feel like I just like walked into it kind of blind.
Was that like the goal? Like you were like, you know what, I'm just gonna do this?
No, it wasn't planned. So like we got married, we like I said, we planned to go on a honeymoon and like take our time with it.
And next
a few years at least. But so basically I was on birth control. Yeah. So I went to the doctors, a gynae actually, and he said to me like, oh, you need to get off birth control because you have PCOS, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, okay, really? And then he's like, yeah, you're really going to struggle to get pregnant. And I'm like, right, okay. So I, in hindsight, really should have gotten a second opinion because he was totally wrong.
Oh.
He's like, number one, I did not have PCOS. I don't know how he like managed to, I don't know.
That,
yes,
right.
Exactly. And I got pregnant like within a month of going off.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Always get a second opinion.
Exactly. Yeah. Moral of the story, get a second opinion. Okay. And like and plan if you can. It's important to understand like your financial like situation, like the assumed roles for both parents, like your support, your village, blah blah blah.
Yeah. Before we end, what are some of the other tips you would give moms that are maybe struggling? Like sometimes not everyone is as blessed to have a caring husband or a supportive husband. Sometimes there are moms who are single moms who are bringing kids up alone.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if you could give them some words of affirmation, just, some words of support, like what would you tell them like to prioritize during their pregnancy and, after giving birth? Like,
okay. Like I could, again, only speak on my experience, but it is for me, like the hardest work I've ever done, like literally the hardest. But it is absolutely like hands down the most rewarding work I have ever done. Like nothing rewards me. Like, oh my God, I get emotional when I think about it. But like nothing is as rewarding as being a mom for me. Yeah. So even if you are going through a hard time, I think you've really got to have faith. Like a mother's love for their child, I feel is, it's indescribable really. Like the bond that you have with your child, like, it will get you through. Yeah, so just keep going.
Just keep going, stay strong.
But if you, also, like, it's important to say, though, like, if you do have somebody you can talk to, always talk to someone. Like, even if they can't physically do something for you, like, it always helps to, like, alleviate that burden. You know, like, when you talk to someone, you get a perspective and you just, you know, a burden is lifted.
Right.
Yeah, so talk to people, you know, just reach out and, keep going.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, I guess before we end, what can we expect to see from you in the next, few years? Like, from your brand, and maybe also,
No, actually, we've got a lot in the pipeline.
Ooh,
so we are really excited about it. We are dropping new products finally after like 2.5 years on the market. We've got like a small product range, so only 5 products. But we've done research, and it's taken a while, but we're really excited to drop new products at the end of the year this year. And early next year, like, fingers crossed, we've actually got exciting news. I'm not supposed to say like what exactly is happening, but I can tell you that we will be launching in stores with like one of like beauty's biggest retailers.
Oh,
so that's really exciting. Yeah.
Okay.
That's really exciting.
That must be really cool. And I mean,
it's a lot. Like, it's kind of it's always been the end goal for us. So we'll say that for like another podcast. Fingers crossed that it happens.
Okay. I'm sure it will. We're here to support you. I'm sure whoever's watching, you're like, okay. So, but yeah, before I let you go, where can we find you on social media? Like, if we want to keep up with you and your life.
Like my Instagram handle?
Your Instagram.
Yeah, literally just Instagram.
So you don't have TikTok and all
No,
that.
I really need to get on TikTok, but oh my God, I am like TikTok illiterate.
It's like, very overwhelming at first, I would say. And
but it's also not relatable. Like,
correct.
To me.
It's so we can find Sophia on Instagram. Got it.
Yes.
But thank you again so much for coming on to this episode.
This was so much fun.
Yeah, it was so much fun for me. And
I actually feel like, I've had girl time.
I loved it. I loved it because I feel like I can learn so much from you. Because I mean, obviously I'm not a mom, but I feel like, just hearing like what you have to say is different for everyone. So I think whoever's watching as well, who's maybe, expecting or, planning to have a kid, like, just know that you're not alone. Everybody's different.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And just take it easy.
And it's your own journey.
It's your own journey.
Yeah.
So once again, thank you so much, Sophia. It was a pleasure having you on this episode. And with that, I'm going to say bye, everybody. And hopefully I'll see you guys in
Thank you.
next season. So, fingers crossed. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys hopefully soon. Bye.
Yay. Bye.